Hello and welcome to Collaboratory, the show where Mike Morris improvises an animatic with a little help from our audience, and we learn about the craft of storyboarding along the way. This is an improv art stream which runs on audience suggestions. So, Mike, what kinds of prompts are we looking for from the audience?
Well, I think we should talk a little bit about our brand new format that we're going to be employing for Collaboratory. And we're not only going to be streaming once a month, but we're going to be streaming twice a month. And whereas we've been kind of in the past taking ideas and looking for three things, we're looking for characters, a setting, and a conflict between those characters. We're going to be looking for that in our first session. In the second session, we're going to be now looking for story resolutions and ideas to have a complete animatic by the time that we're done between the two sessions of Collaboratory each month.
And our hope is that this will lead to longer, more interesting animatics. Although every time that we've done this so far, we get something really funny and really just wild.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this live, if you're watching this live on Twitch or YouTube, you can enter your suggestions for characters, a setting, and a conflict in the chat, and whatever you type might show up on screen. And to give our viewers some inspiration, our most recent episode was a showdown between a ninja and a cyborg corgi snow person inside. Was that inside Santa's workshop? I don't know exactly what that was, but I can't wait to see what our audience comes up with next.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. We were getting into weird territory. I thought at one point Salvador Dali was going to show up into there with some really wacky stuff. So.
Oh, I would love for Salvador Dali to show up in our episodes. So while we wait for suggestions to come in, I just want to take a second to recognize that the Animation Guild has been in negotiations with the AMPTP, and I've seen really talented storyboard artists sharing their work experiences using the Storycraft Unite hashtag over the past month. And I would encourage our audience to take a look.
Storycraft Unite, people.
Yeah, that is Storycraft with the T. Oh, there we go. And since we're talking about the labor of animation, Mike, from your point of view, what can be challenging about a career as a storyboard artist?
Well, I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about boards is just how iterative storyboarding can be. They say storyboarding is reboarding, and it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of ability to be able to go over things over and over again until you get it right. There's a lot involved in the job, right? So not only if you're doing a job or you're doing your own short and you're boarding your own short, that's great. You're basically the director and the board artist and everything all in one, right? When you're working for a director, you not only have to bring that creativity of yourself to a storyboard, but you've also got to be able to take direction from your director and say, like, well, this is what I think should happen, but my director is saying this is what he needs to have happen. So I have to put my aesthetic aside and give my director what he wants or what she wants. And I think that's one of the things that makes storyboard artists unique, is just that flexibility that we have to have, that malleability, and be able to adapt, to not only what we want to have in something creatively and what we can bring to the table versus what is the need for the story of the film that you're doing. If that makes sense. Hopefully I wasn't rambling in some weird incoherent way. I haven't had a lot of sleep lately. But yeah, just balancing the need of the story versus the need of your own creativity. Does that answer your question?
Those are great answers to that question. And as we're waiting for some more prompts to come in, let's talk a little bit more about the work of a storyboarder.
One thing that I do want to talk about right now, the union is in the middle of negotiations with the producers. So we are showing them how important we are to the process of making animation. Storyboard artists especially are, we're basically like the first on the scene outside of, writers and directors and such, but we're the understructure of every movie, every show. We're the we're the frame of the house, essentially, whereas the designers and the animators can come and make it everything look wonderful and well acted, and the sound mixers come in and make everything just sound beautiful and wonderful. But the storyboard artists are the ones that are coming up with the jokes. We're the ones that are making those characters something that somebody wants to watch, right? And a lot of times storyboard artists are getting taken advantage of. And right now we're in negotiations to try and help make that a little bit more fair. So anything that any of you in the audience can do to show your appreciation of story artists with hashtag Storycraft Unite, tag it up. That's what we have, the Animation Guild tag. You can see my shirt here if my headphone cord isn't yanking on my head. Animation Guild tag. So please use the hashtag Storycraft Unite and show your appreciation for not only story artists but animation artists in general. 4 out of 5 of the top grossing films each year seem to be animated films. They bring in a lot of money for the producers, and we just want to be able to be treated fairly. So show your support.
We have a few prompts. One set of prompts is an octopus returning home to find another creature has moved in. So we could infer from that octopus as a character. The home has been listed as either a shell or a cave. We have done octopi before. But I think we could take the shell or cave as maybe a prompt and maybe another creature moving in as a conflict.
Okay. Sure. So we have somebody coming home after a long period away, realizing that their home has been squatted on by some other creature.
Now, cool. I think it could also be really funny if the other creature was something really weird, like a leprechaun or elves or something.
Well, it is St. Patrick's Day coming up very soon. 2 days.
Crab has been suggested as a possible creature. Raccoon and hawk is a creature. That'd be really funny if it was an underwater setting and a raccoon and hawk had moved in. Mermaid.
It's like Sally or from SpongeBob. What's her? What's the squirrel from SpongeBob?
Yes, Sally Cheek. There's Sandy Cheeks.
Yeah, Sandy. That's right. Okay, so we have an underwater setting. We have some sort of underwater dwelling. We're talking coral. We're talking a shell. What are we talking here? Because the shell is going to determine the size of what we can actually have.
Oh, you know what? If it's a crab, it could be a hermit crab. And they move into like a nautilus shell.
Sure.
But I also like coral as like a visually interesting sort of material.
I think so too. I think coral is a great starting point. Let's go with coral. I think that gives us a little bit more flexibility than a shell. As to like what sort of things we can do. So I'm not an expert on the finer points of coral, but I know that it does sort of blossom into this area here. So we can start with maybe like an upshot and have a little bit of an organic looking thing to it here where the coral is growing. And let's put in some foreground element here of coral growing in the foreground and have a nice, upshot of some coral in a reef. And maybe a, part that's where it's growing together to form an entrance and doorway.
Do you have any tips for drawing underwater scenes in general?
Well, it helps to spend time underwater. No, I'm just kidding. Reference. Although I did go snorkeling once. We were lucky enough when I was working for Disney to get some discounted tickets to go to Aulani. And while I was there, I did the snorkeling thing that they have, and that was really fun to see, and see some of the fishes and stuff that are around there. And I think one of the things that we can do to kind of make this process a little bit faster here is to employ some of our marker brushes, and put the draw behind on and fill in with some tone. And I think that's really going to help us to not have to draw everything really specifically, so we can build in some fun and good shapes without having to shell out, sorry, dad joke, for like every little bit of detail, because honestly for this stream we just don't have the time.
And in a proper production, it would be a production artist who would be doing the backgrounds.
Yeah, we have BG and layout people. Animation is such a multifaceted and collaborative medium that you'll find that it's highly specialized in a lot of ways. And everybody has a part in a production, and all of those parts play to a larger whole. And when you're working on a production, it's always good to get to know people in other departments, if you can, if your paths cross, because there's so much to learn from different people who have different expertise, right? And so take advantage of that. If you're on a production and you meet some people from a different discipline, take advantage and learn a little bit about that discipline. It'll help you be a better board artist.
It can also be helpful to know, oh, that's why we don't want to have a shot where the background is panning as you're moving towards the camera.
What?
It can also help too, because there are certain things that are become troublesome at certain points in the animation process. If
Oh
you're
yeah.
including that into your board.
For sure. And that's why cross-discipline friendships are so important, because you can be friends with a production designer, and the production designer will be like, oh yeah, hey dude, look at this shot, this is so cool. And then you can be like, well, it looks really cool, but that's not gonna work in animation. Well, why not? Well, I'll tell you why. This for this reason and this reason, this reason. And then you guys talk a little bit about it some more and figure out, well, how are we going to make this work? Well, okay, well, let's try this and that. So it's a really great thing to just be able to talk art with people, and because not only is animation an art, it's also a craft. There's certain things you have to sort of live by. It's a great blend of art and technology, and there's certain things that you can and can't do given certain budgets.
Yeah, and
Okay, so
like you
Coral
said
Reef.
too, with different budgets, it's also different productions and different practices on what you will and won't do in a scene.
Right. My kids have been watching The Amazing World of Gumball lately,
Mm.
and that has crazy cool production value stuff, like things that I'm looking at and be like, wow, they really leaned into some of the CG stuff, and it's just like a collage of a bunch of different mediums all in one, and it's really kind of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, and they break a bunch of rules. It's really fantastic.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. That's that's really fun. Okay, cool. So I think we should go from this to maybe having some bubbles or something like that come out the front door. So we can just have a little something like this. Let's do the draw behind and white. Something that'll stand out like that. And then we're going to duplicate this panel. Once I move my palette around a little bit, there we go. Duplicate that. And then on this A level, I can just erase that and we'll make the bubbles really sort of pour out of this front area here. Doorway, if you will. Some of these, also for as a story artist, it helps if you know a little thing or two about actual animation stuff. Like if you know how to animate, at least in a rudimentary way, that's going to help you with your boards.
Understanding the principles of animation,
Absolutely,
knowing some of the different techniques that are used, understanding the difference between if your show is a hand-drawn or cut-out production.
Absolutely, and it'll help you be able to keep your stuff, on budget too, because then you're not asking for things that are extraordinarily difficult to do given the medium you have.
Yeah, let's throw in a bunch of incidental characters. Why not?
Right, like everybody, it's drawing a football stadium full of people is easy, right? Right?
Yeah,
that's what we do, right?
it's animation. We have an unlimited special effects budget. It's fine.
Right, and I mean, not to throw shade at writers or anything like that, but I think sometimes, when you're only working with the spoken word, you can sort of not really think about what other people are going to have to do to follow you up.
Yeah, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, and then there's gang fights and things happening in the parking lot, and everybody's like, "What is happening?" And everybody's snapping their fingers, and they've got pencils, and it's weird.
I'm on board with everything turning into sort of West Side Story. That would be kind of fun.
Well, we're by nature not a very violent people, so I imagine animator fights are going to be much more like you got served than you got beat to crap, So that's just my initial impression. I haven't been in very many animator rumbles. The closest I got to was a really awesome Nerf battle at Disney one time, when the great designer Devin Roth, who was also a fantastic street hockey player, he was terror on wheels with a Nerf gun and a pair of rollerblades.
Now that sounds wild.
It was so fun. We actually cornered one of the writers who thought he was pretty clever, hiding and ducking through cubicles, and then we finally figured out where he was, and 3 or 4 of us just shot darts at him. But that's a different story for another time. All right, so here we go. We've got bubbles coming out here, and I think we can just keep a couple of these bubbles and reuse them to be.
We've also gotten a ton of prompts for animal suggestions.
So
if you're looking for more characters or thinking about them, Mantis Shrimp, which apparently have hands that can box their prey, so that's kind of cool. And we still have the mermaid and crab, raccoon and hawk.
I think what we're going to do for this one right here is we're just going to cut in on the background that we already have, because sometimes that's just more economical. So using the camera feature is pretty great on this. I can just, move it to where I need it to be. Right down here, and maybe we'll go just a little bit off center, and have somebody coming out of this. So we've got Mantis Shrimp. I'm not sure what a Mantis Shrimp looks like. I'll have to look that up on my phone. Because reference, people.
I would suggest not looking it up and just like splitting the difference between a mantis and a shrimp, because I think that could be funny.
Okay. So my inner self saying you must do the reference, my boy, is at odds with this philosophy of yours. But you know what? What the heck? Let's do it. I don't know what a Mantis Shrimp looks like, and so let's have that disclaimer. But we're gonna try.
It's kind of like the AI approach to it. You sort of feed an algorithm that you've trained on mantises and shrimp, and see what it does to create a mantis shrimp.
Sure.
Apparently, they also have googly eyes too.
Okay, so a googly-eyed mantis shrimp. Let's see what we can do. So let's see. Let's go to a different.
I like
layer
that the
here.
most feedback we've gotten is, "What do mantis shrimp look like?" And they're describing it to me in words. This is going to come out like those taxidermy medieval lions.
Tell me a couple of these. Tell me. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So here's what we got: googly eyes, boxing hands.
Boxing hands. They're like fists.
Yeah,
taped up. Fists.
Like little boxing gloves, I think is sort of what they got.
Okay, so let's do like
it's going to be really fun to look up a mantis shrimp afterwards too.
Sure, and I imagine they would have like little legs or something like shrimp would, right?
Yeah, I think like a little sea monkey like.
Sure. So we need to do one drawing without without the mantis shrimp, and then we need another one with him sort of emerging from the inside. And you see like maybe a couple of the kicking up a few bubbles.
Okay, someone sent us a link to the Z Frank True Facts About Mantis Shrimp video, and they look absolutely terrifying. And they actually look like they're described.
Like a coconut crab. You seen coconut crabs? Oh my gosh, those things are terrifying. Very cool looking though. They are some wonderful monster nightmare fuel.
Yeah, the deep sea is really good for nightmare fuel in general.
I had to fill up my gas tank the other day, and I could have sworn I was filling up my gas tank with nightmare fuel because that's how much it cost. It was a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, wow, this is the stuff that terrible bad dreams are made out of.
Well, we're getting some suggestions for like a slow motion punch. I think people are leaning into the boxing theme because someone has suggested a boxing ring as something we could incorporate.
Boxing ring, okay.
I do kind of like the idea of just recreating like the Rocky movies but underwater.
So Rocky moves into Apollo Creed's palace.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he live in like a super awesome mansion? And Rocky lives in
we could incorporate
hovel in
elements of
Philly.
like a really awesome undersea mansion. What would that look like?
Coral, man. It's a coral palace.
Yeah.
So he's just like skittering out, sweeping the walk. Bubbles coming off. I don't know what a mantis shrimp looks like, but we're gonna fake it because that's what we do.
I think that looks pretty close.
Okay, so what do we have as the other character now?
So got a mantis shrimp. So I'll read some of our options for the other characters.
Okay.
In order of what we've got a crab, raccoon and hawk, mermaid, a regular shrimp. So there's a mantis shrimp and there can just be a shrimp.
I mean, the crab is it's good. It's on the nose, but it's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. He's gonna have. I think we should give him like a boxer's mouth, where it's just missing teeth.
if you really want to make this like really going for the boxing, maybe we do want to bring back the octopus. Like because it has 8 arms, really,
He's got some
butterfly sting like a bee.
Some bandages and such, and then I think we should have him do like one big last sweep. So we're gonna do like our little trick here that we do in Storyboard Pro. You know what? I'm gonna turn up the layer brush resolution, pixel density of this one, so we can have a little bit more texture in this close-up view. So I'm going to use this blue for a little bit of line of action, so I can get a nice loose drawing, taking away the draw behind. Get a nice little S shape and have him, sweep stuff right off. That's good. That's done. Nothing like a job well done. And then since we are keeping things more in the rough territory, I'm going to get rid of this red. And, I think we can just erase a couple little bits and call it good.
Oh, we got some questions. So what would the rocky stairwell climb training scene look like underwater? Or would it involve like climbing coral?
It would be a lot less hard
suggestion,
because of the weight. The whole idea was gravity was keeping it down.
Yeah.
And in the absence of gravity, I mean, what have you got? I mean, really, you're looking at like lifting massive amounts of stuff, like more like Rocky IV, where he's like lifting a buffalo or whatever that was in the snow. Some giant log that he's got strapped on his back.
There's also a suggestion too that one of the creatures could be his coach.
So like a plankton or something.
Yeah. Ooh, I like the idea of the coach being really teeny tiny. That's kind of fun.
All right, boy, let's get it on. And he's just like this little guy. Stop clowning around and get back to your practice. Of course, Mickey is the quintessential like mean coach guy, except for when he's soft and tender. The one instance where he's pleading with Rocky to actually give him a shot since he didn't want to at first. Those are good movies. I like those movies. That they really have some good character development in them. Maybe just because that's I find that a lot of what we consider to be good movies is what we were sort of raised on. And Rocky movies were part of the zeitgeist of my time period. So, yeah, good movies.
It's also kind of fun to revisit old movies too.
Right.
Yeah, because the memory doesn't always match up with what you saw as a kid.
Okay, so last sweep, and then I know that sometimes you watch a movie and just doesn't hold up. I think so we need to make a decision here. What animal is it going to be, or what is it going to be?
I'm seeing a lot of suggestions for the coach being a crab.
Okay, I think that we need somebody. We need the person whose home is being invaded.
Conflict. You know what? I kind of like the idea of it being something that shouldn't be underwater. I like the idea of like a raccoon in a reverse, or in like a spacesuit or something.
Sure. I leave to go to space for 1 minute, and my home is overtaken.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. Let's do a little quick background here. We'll put some rocks and stuff on the seabed floor. Let's add another bit of coral up here for some nice eye back stoppage. And when we're designing bits of background, I learned this from Mark Kirkland, one of the great Simpsons directors, and from various people at CalArts and stuff. If you want to design a background for something, try and keep it simple, but also use the elements that you have at your disposal to draw attention to where you want your audience to look. In this case, we've got, lines and shapes that are all leading to something in this general area. So let's do the mantis shrimp. How big are mantis shrimps, by the way?
It's about the size of a mantis shrimp.
Okay, dude, you can't do the definition. You know that thing, right? Where you can't
Chad,
define a
help
word
us
with its
out.
own word.
Tell us how big a mantis shrimp is. I think with some sea creatures, they can kind of be whatever size depending on how old they are. They just keep getting bigger.
I mean, we really don't need to care, but it's just good to know, I guess. And I'm gonna just drop in some tone too while we're at it. I'm gonna drop in some tone just so we can have like a bit of a canvas to use here.
Okay, we're getting suggestion around 10 centimeters, so that is roughly 3 inches. Or
Okay,
3 or 4 inches.
That's gonna make this pretty interesting, I think. The scale of it all. And folks, there's simpler ways to do this, but I'm just gonna do it because it's fast for me.
Now, this is according to Wikipedia and according to someone in our chat. So we're getting this like fourth hand.
Okay. Good to know.
That is pretty big for a shrimp, though. Like that's sizable.
Sure. All right. So then let's have him here in the foreground. Get back to our pens. So what did we have? His arms. Okay, so we have an arm right here and an arm right there. And I think we should have a very surprised-looking raccoon with like big bags packed. I think we knew better than this. Designing characters on the fly is sometimes
Yeah,
it's
challenging.
a little dicey.
I do think that so this is a raccoon, so I feel like this suit should be somewhat made of like scavenged materials, like an old soup can or something.
Maybe. Like a it would be
like
funny.
Really embrace like the trash,
You know what would be funny is like he just has a cut up Home Depot bucket. It's like one of those like 5-gallon paint buckets. He just like cut some holes in it. He's like using the handle as like some sort of like breathing apparatus thing.
Love it.
Oh, that's funny. This is why we love Collaboratory, folks, because we can just make up silly crap, and I love it.
When you can bounce ideas off of someone, the ideas just get better or weirder.
And weirder oftentimes is better. It's so hard nowadays too, because with like media being just so out there all the time, like to bring the surprise, into a project for an audience, because they've just seen so much stuff. So you have to constantly, nurture your own creativity.
Can we
And
make
come
it
up with
more
stuff
avant-garde?
that people aren't expecting, So it's got some bags and like, what the heck is this guy doing in my place? Maybe okay. So I think we need to have the hands higher too, because another thing that we often need to pay attention to in storyboarding is just showing the difference between 1 and 2. Where, and by that I mean the first pose between first pose and second pose. So we have him holding like a couple little like duffel bag things. Maybe like one of them's an old style suitcase or something like that. And I'm going to get rid of the blue because we don't need that anymore. We came up with something way funnier.
I also really love the scale between these two characters.
Yeah, right. I think the scale is super fun. Because I mean, what's this Mantis Shrimp going to do against a giant raccoon in a huge bucket? I think we can come up with a little bit better of an expression on this guy's. And also, we need to be concerned about eyeline. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term eyeline, it is you need to make sure the characters look like they're looking at what they're supposed to be looking at. So in this case, we're going to move this little Mantis Shrimp. Let's move him, say, like right here. We'll make him slightly bigger, so we don't have to cheat that eye line over so much for the raccoon. So getting a bead on this. Just gonna lower this eye just a little bit. And that's one thing, like when I've directed projects or when I've had a director, when working on something for somebody else, eye line is like, yeah, fix the eye line, fix the eye line, fix the eye line. It's something that comes up quite a lot. So make sure you've got good eye lines, people.
What are some other things that come up often in revisions? Like I feel like eyeline hookups.
Hookups are huge, yeah. And again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, it's making sure that like two shots match one another as far as the position of characters and the pose that they're in. Like for instance, this
character has his hand up in one scene, and the next cut, you should have the hand still being up.
Yeah, for this instance, like he's got the broom over here, and then we have to make sure that the broom is over here on this one. We have to make sure that there's consistency. For live action, they often call it continuity. So make sure that your continuity is good by hooking up your shots. Okay. So comes it out. And then I think we may need one other little shot right here, one other little action, and to have our friend, the shrimp, the mantis shrimp, sort of like, look up a little bit. So using the wonders of vector technology, as we often do in the show, we're just going to move some stuff around. And take that brush down a peg or two. Too far. So he's walking out, skittering out, and then what? And then we have this guy staring him down. All right, and then copy that, and then we're just going to have a simple bag drop for our raccoony friend.
I feel like it's almost a like law of nature in cartoons, where if someone's holding something heavy, that thing has to fall.
Sure, I'm wondering if it should just like gently float to the floor, though. He like lets him go, and it's just like on the ground.
I do like that because it sort of subverts the expectation.
Yeah,
It's possible to add like a little bit of a drift.
And we could do that in layer motion or something like that, if we had it on separate layers. But again, time, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing, when you're working boards, bring in your sense of humor. I mean, if you're working on a comedy, make it funny. I was there was a colleague of mine, Mr. Dan O'Connor, who I've worked with on a show called Future Worm, and he did this one episode called Bug versus Babysitter, and looking at the animatic, everybody in that whole screening room was just rolling. It was so funny, and that's always a good place to be in. Where your people looking at your stuff, and it's just they're just having a grand old time because it's just so funny. And that's what it's all about when we're working in entertainment, is being entertaining, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's. I feel like a big part of what storyboard artists contribute to a show, and then also animators, is just having it being really visually funny.
Right. There's different ways to be funny, and different things you can do, as far as there's timing funny, there's expression funny, there's like just a funny drawing, there's funny sound, whether it be dialogue or like for instance, when they did the Wile E. Coyote cartoons where he falls.
Oh yeah,
from
the
ridiculous
slide whistle.
Yeah, but there was a I can't remember. I think the guy's name was Treg Brown. Don't quote me on that, but he was the special effects person, and for like the sound mixer or whatever. And when he did it,
Foley artist or something.
Yeah, the Foley artist. He turned the impact sound like way down. So instead of having like him fall and like a big old boom or whatever like that, it was just a poof. And then the next thing you see him just flattened on in a close up on the ground. So and that little subtle sound was just so funny. Because the audience is still up at that great height. Um, Little things like that. Timing funny is always just a matter of figuring out when to do something. Your stage presence will kind of help you with that. Like, good timing is sort of hard to come by. But again, going back to Chuck Jones, he said that sometimes jokes can land or not land based on a single frame. That those little pregnant pauses and stuff are super important when you're doing boards, especially if you're playing editor and you're doing an animatic as well. All right, so where are we taking this here? How is this conflict going to go forward? I think we should cut back to our friend the Mantis. I think we should do a new shot, and I think we should have him be in more of a subordinate downshot position, because he is, basically taking over this guy's place. So we need the two.
Yeah, and size-wise, you just introduced a character that's towering over him too.
Yeah, so I mean, a downshot on him is going to make him feel vulnerable and small, which is kind of what we want. You got some foreground elements still.
Someone wrote in the chat, actually. Someone wrote an interesting comment in the chat. Comedy in general is all about timing, and I know that animation is also very strongly associated with timing. So, do you think that the fact that animation is in comedy are so linked to timing is why a lot of people associate animation and comedy?
That's a good working theory. I mean, animation does lend itself to comedy very easily, because you can do things in animation you can't in other places. You can take that imagination really, really far, and you don't have to worry about the
characters.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about things like the limits of gravity, or having some sort of effect that you can't achieve. Like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin would have given a lot to be able to defy gravity when they wanted to. I think you should say something to this guy, like inadvertently insulting, like, "Hey, what brings you to my home?" Or something like that. Like, "Your home? What? This is my home. You bit of vermin." Like, "Howdy, stranger," or whatever. Like, he would come up with something.
Hey, are you moving in here too?
Yeah. So I put them on the same layer, so let's rectify that. Welcome to the neighborhood. Where do you live? Here.
No.
I don't know who told you this, buddy, but my brother actually was having some trouble with moving from one state to another, and found out that somebody had fraudulently rented out the place that he was renting, or he was going to rent for his family. Yeah, so that was an interesting fiasco. They're like, "Well, this guy needs to be evicted first before we can move in." Somebody ran a scam and rented him this place, deposit and everything, but didn't own the actual property. He just was able to pick the lockbox or something. Pretty crazy stuff, man.
We've got a few ideas about conflict resolutions. One is that they could have a staring contest.
Well, that's That's
Um,
next time, though. That's next time.
yeah.
You
We've
have to
got
tune in next time.
a really, uh, really nasty one-liner for the shrimp.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Aren't you a long ways from the trash beneath? That's courtesy of B-Dub in Twitch, I believe.
All right. Well, you're a little ways from the garbage bin. What brings you down here, Buster?
Yeah, that's.
I think maybe that
That's
sort of antagonism needs to be saved for once the conflict really starts. Because right now he's
yeah.
got no reason to just be inadvertently, just to be insulting for being insulting's sake.
That's true.
I
Right.
think
So
that's
we
something you
are.
reserve for.
Yeah, we have a little bit less than 10 minutes in this stream. So do we want to talk about what we're looking for in the next episode?
Sure. I think the next episode are really going to be for focusing on what sort of story points we want to bring into this. We've done a lot of setups, but we haven't done a lot of resolutions. So that's what we're going to be looking for, is like, what are the ideas that are going to turn this story? And turn being a term for what is going to move the story forward, what's going to make it progress. And I think that that is really what we're going to be looking for from the audience here, is tell us some things that are going to be unexpected for this story that's going to make it really become something cool. So we can have a story that we can run from the beginning to the end. And who knows, maybe we can even, if people want to submit voiceover tracks or something like that, that we could pop them into an animatic and post it online or something. Who knows? We're still in the process of finalizing this format. So bring your ideas to the table. What do you want to see from the Collaboratory? And we will do our best to accommodate that.
I want to see these characters grow as people.
Well, so you want this Mantis Shrimp to turn into a person?
Yes. Yes, that is exactly what I want.
Okay.
All right.
Weird, but all right.
So we are running out of time. Do you want to just run through what we have so far?
Sure. Let me just do one more image, and I think it's going to be this of this. Kind of looking down and being like, what are you talking about? I think we can even like push the perspective farther on that, but we'll just do a quick version.
Like really worm's eye view.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do, is really lean into that idea. We can make the head not so much that, because that works independently of the can. But that maybe that can ought to. Have something wrong with that. Anyway, next time, folks. You don't need to see the bottom of his mouth because it would be obscured by can. All right, did I turn the fill in on? I think I did. Yes, that's why it's doing some random things. All right, let's go through this whole thing. So we have go to the camera view, and I'm going to push Shift M to make it full size. And so we have a coral reef. Everything is, normal and still. It's a slight upshot, and we got some bubbles pouring up out of it. and we see a little mantis shrimp just sort of coming out, sweeping the wall. It's a good day to be at home. Nothing like a job well done. And then we have him looking at that like, and they fall sort of slowly to the ground. So, stranger, what brings you to my fine home? Your home. And that's what we have.
All right. Mike, thank you for joining us once again for Collaboratory. Do you have any projects or topics that you'd like to draw our attention to this month?
Really the only thing I want to draw anybody's attention to is hashtag Storycraft Unite. Post your storyboards. Even if you're non-union and you're looking to be union, it's gonna, this sort of support's gonna raise all boats. If you're familiar with that term, rising tides raise all boats. Help us raise the boats.
I think it makes sense for it to be nautical too, given the theme of today's episode. Thank you to everyone who joined us for Collaboratory. If you'd like to try your hand at storyboarding, you can download a 21-day trial of Storyboard Pro from our website at toonboom.com. We will be picking up where we left off in this episode on Tuesday, March 22nd. And if you're interested in cutout animation, don't miss our live stream on Thursday, March 24th. My cat is attacking something made of cardboard, so there might be some audio issues. But on the 24th, Camilla Barbazan Crescent will be showing off a Viking pirate rig that you need to see to believe. So thank you again, and tune in next week.
See you, everybody.